invite you to say someone hello to somebody this morning. Say hello to someone you don't know. Say hello to someone you do know. Say hello to those folks that are watching from home on the cameras, because we are glad they could join us this morning as well. And then go ahead and be seated, get comfortable, and we're going to sing Heart of the Mother. Sing with us, please. I am one with the heart of the mother. I am one with the heart of love. I am one with the heart of the Father. I am one with God. I am one with the heart of the mother. I am one with the heart of love. I am one with the heart of the Father. I am one with God. Oh, hey, Okay, we're going to sing one more song this morning. Let's all sing together. There is only love. In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets me free. There is only love. When I lose myself, when it seems I've lost my way, when I go inside and quiet my mind, I hear Spirit gently say, there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love.
Good morning and welcome to Unity Fort Worth. We are so glad to have you here in person and online. We have a wonderful service prepared for you today, so we hope you enjoy it as much as we do. Today's thank you goes out to those who have already contributed to our Spring Into Action fundraiser. We are so grateful for your generosity. You really do make a world of difference. Our bake sale is today. Visit Fellowship Hall after service and pick up a tasty treat to take home with you today. Our garden team is meeting this Saturday from 9 to 11 a.m. to beautify our Peace Garden. All are welcome. Bring a dish to share next Sunday, May 21st, to break bread and enjoy time together as we all await our spring concert. Join us after our potluck next Sunday for our spring concert starting at 2 p.m. Central, in person and online. You can go online now at the link on the screen and make a love offering in support of the concert. We also have some additional giving opportunities available as part of our Spring into Action campaign that Pamela will now share with us.
Good morning. Been back there with the bake sale. You really do have to come back. Wow, it is fantastic. Well, as you do know, we are in the midst of our Spring into Action, You Make a World of Difference campaign. And it's about enhancing volunteerism here within our walls, in the community, online. And for the last couple of weeks, we've had a couple of great speakers that have talked to us about volunteerism, philosophy, their philosophy, and what it means to them. Today's speaker, I think you'll recognize fairly readily, Reverend Jean-Marie Schweitzer.
Thank you, Pamela. Well, Pamela asked me to share a little bit from my personal background when it comes to being in service. And it goes all the way back a little more than 25 years ago at this point, when I was living in an ashram-like setting, like a commune-style ashram, under a guru, being a disciple, taking my vows, becoming a monk, a very dedicated life. And what I still draw from that time is what we learned as disciples or as novitiates, which are kind of like the trainees to become a monk. You go through a novitiate period before you take your vows and dedicate your entire life to basically humanity. That's how we saw it. We were taught very early on that the foundation of life and the foundation of love and the foundation, what brings us back into alignment with our spirit, which what we back then called enlightenment, is through service. That's what we were taught. And since then, I haven't been able to drop it. It's completely changed my life. It changed my life to have an attitude of service, an attitude of giving, not even connected to receiving. We weren't taught that. That whole giving and receiving thing, that was not in our environment. It was all about giving and giving and giving and giving. And to this day, that drives me. It's a personal mission of mine to give, to be of service. Very much the monk in me that I don't often share and I don't often let people know that part of my background is still very much alive. That attitude of being in service not only to you as a congregation, but humanity as a whole is very important to me. And that's what gets me up in the morning. That's what allows me to work as much as I need to and to take care of others and hopefully sometimes also take care of myself. Now there's a couple of stories, and one story I will share a little bit later. It's called The Story of Trotakam, which is just an absolute beautiful Buddhist story about what it means to be in service. Because what we learned in the ashram is that the fastest way to enlightenment, the fastest path to realize who and what we truly are is through being in service to others. Absolutely the fastest way. The way we practiced that back then was that once we took our novitiate vows, our first step toward monkhood, we dropped our daily clothes. We didn't walk around naked, don't worry. But we chose a color, one of three. We were either dressed all in white, or all in red, or all in black. The white is linked to Vishnu, the sustenance, the maintainer of the world. And most of us, 90% in the ashram, were white. Because white is the path of joy, the path of service, the path of finding joy in every moment. And so we challenged ourselves as we were wearing white. Most of us started out in white and then switched colors maybe later on once our essence became clear. But we all started on that path of service, but at the same time, understanding that service can only be to humanity if it is done in joy. This is why many of you who are volunteering have had me come up to you and ask you, does this bring you joy? It's because that's what I learned, and I learned the difference. There is a difference between being a volunteer and say, oh, okay, now I gotta go to Unity Fort Worth and open door for people, right? And kind of like you're frowning as you do the door opening. Or if it actually brings you joy to have that, make that simple gesture of just opening a door for someone, or preparing coffee, or cleaning up. It doesn't have to be a big thing. In that ashram, we all took different jobs. I was in the kitchen for a while, prepping food for like 200-300 people every day. Or I was in the mail room, helping out with all the mail that came in. Or I would drive some of the monks to the airport so they could fly around the world and teach, which I ended up doing myself later on. It didn't matter. Whatever we were asked to do, not only were we doing it, but we challenged ourselves to be in joy. The path of joy, the path of service, is the fastest way, and I still believe this to this day, that teaching, very simple teaching. If you really want to know who and what you are, if you want to awaken, if enlightenment is even in your vicinity of possibility, not only would I encourage you to absolutely believe that enlightenment is only the starting point of life, not the end, but it is possible for everyone, and you don't have to wait for lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes to get there. We can realize it in every moment. And the fastest way to get there is to be in service. Whether it is to our community, or to a charity, or to a partner, or to your children, or to your parents. But remember, see yourself as all dressed in white. The path of joy is intimately linked to that. So I'm going to share about Trotikam a little bit later. I just wanted to share that piece. Those of you who are interested, so we had white for Vishnu, red for Brahma, who is the creator of the world in the Hindu tradition, and we have black for Shiva, who is the destroyer in the Hindu tradition. Red, obviously, meaning love, and black, meaning compassion, or more specifically, ruthless compassion, which is a difficult practice. That's why very few were blacks. Most were whites, little fewer reds, and then only a handful of blacks. Why? It's much easier to be in joy and then move into love. But to be truly compassionate, it really takes a lot. It takes a lot of learning, a lot of discipline, and we all can do it, but it's something that's very, very precious to learn. So hopefully that helps you understand a little bit more from where I come from when I talk about service, and I'll talk a little bit more later. Pamela.
Thank you, Jean-Marie. It's a beautiful story, so simple and yet so meaningful, being joyful in service. And that's how we want to reconstruct our volunteer program. Simple to get involved in, and having meaningful work to do. Simple and meaningful. You know, people volunteer for a variety of reasons. They do studies all the time asking people, why do you volunteer? Or maybe you've asked your friend or something. And there are many different answers, as I said. We might have a different one if I ask you that right now. But most of them are, you're able to kind of put them in categories, let's say. At least I've done that. One is social, meeting new people, getting to know people better. Maybe even people you already know, but you want to have a deeper relationship with them. Maybe you enjoy working with a team to reach a collaborative goal. Those are all social reasons. Another one is values-based. By the way, these aren't mutually exclusive. You'll hear people say, I just want to make a difference. My family has always given back. Serving others is just important to me. It's part of my DNA. Excuse me. Another one is skills-based. Perhaps you have a skill and there's a need for it, perhaps here at Unity Fort Worth, and you say, hey, I can do that, and I'd like to do that. The opposite is true as well. Maybe you have these great skills and there's a need for it, but that's not what you want to do. You want to learn something new. You use that skill at work every day. You want to learn something new. Volunteering is a wonderful way to jump in and learn a new skill. And I guess the last one would be cause-related. That's what I'm calling it anyway. It's because the cause itself is so important for us, helping to spread the unity message of love and compassion, being the hands and feet of God's presence, and helping this church, Unity Fort Worth, be healthy and sustainable. Excuse me, I promise I haven't been eating those sweets back there. Well, I shouldn't really promise, but regardless of the reasons that you volunteer, we want you to be able to find your ideal volunteer position. And in order to do that, as you've been hearing, we are going to hire a part-time volunteer coordinator to implement a vastly improved volunteer system. You might say, well, don't you just post some opportunities and people sign up? Well, yes, that's part of it, but that's not the half of it, as they say. The volunteer coordinator will tweak some old positions, create some new opportunities, but also will collaborate and network with you. What is your passion? What are your interests? What do you want to do? Where do you think you could be joy in service? What's your availability? And you all may come together and tweak an opportunity that fits just you. Support is another really important thing. Once you're volunteering and you've had a chance to do it for a while, the volunteer coordinator will check in with you. How's it going? Is there anything else that you need? Any additional training? Do you have questions? And even this, if you say, well, this isn't what I thought it would be, great, let's find you something else. Just like Jean-Marie said, we don't want you to be in a position that you don't really like, but you feel badly about quitting. So you'll communicate with your volunteer coordinator about that. Another area is acknowledgement. We all need to be recognized for what we do. That may not be the reason you volunteer, but it's really important. And that's part of volunteer management too, whether it's a pat on the back, a handwritten note, or a formal volunteer recognition. You'll be part of that. And finally, there is another part, and it's called evaluation. And at some point later on, the volunteer coordinator will look at the overall program. You know, how are things going well in this area? Does something need to be tweaked in this area? What results are we seeing? That sort of thing. And you'll have input into that process too as a volunteer. So if you would like to volunteer currently for any of our positions, please go to the website by clicking on the QR code or going to the link on your own. In addition, as you've been hearing for the last several weeks, we have put together some sponsorship packages that will get you both your concert admissions at that $20 suggested love offering level and support this important new initiative. All the different levels have concert admissions, recognition, and thank you gifts from us. And as your contribution rises, the benefits grow as well, to include things as special recognition from the board, Sunday flowers on us for you to be able to thank or memorialize a person or celebrate an education, your choice. So thank you so much for your gifts. And for those of you that have already given yes, and for those of you that are going to give. That's all for the announcements. Now let's get back to some musical voices from our fabulous music team of one.
I pray you'll be my eyes and watch them where they go and help them to be wise. Help me to let go. Child knows. Lead them to a place, guide them with your grace to a place where they'll be safe. I pray they'll find your light and hold it in their hearts as darkness falls each night. Remind them where you are. Every mother's every child knows. Need to find a place, guide them with your grace, give them faith so they'll be saved. Lead them to a place, guide them with your grace to a place where they'll be saved.
Today's absolute word is Mother's Day. The affirmation is, I am grateful for and bless all mothers. Let's say this together. I am grateful for and bless all mothers. There's nothing quite like a mother's love, so nurturing, caring, and warm. Today, I bless all women in my life who express this love in all they do. Whether it's my biological mother who raised me, or any of the other women who so generously shared a motherly love with me. I have felt their care through their tender touch and encouraging words. Over the years, I have grown strong and confident under their redirection, and have relied upon their wisdom. Mothers express their divinity using their humanity to share loving words and caring hands. They effortlessly express motherly love. I bless and am grateful for them in my life. I remember they are 100% divine and 100% human, as they have shared themselves so generously with me. Today's scripture verse is from 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 30. Then the mother of the child said, "As the Lord lives and as you yourself live, I will not live without you." The affirmation again, I am grateful for and bless all mothers. Together, I am grateful for and bless all mothers.
So in honor of Mother's Day, I want to read a poem to you. The poem is called "The Wide Spectrum of Mothering" by Amy Young. To those who gave birth this year to their first child, we celebrate you. To those who lost a child this year, we mourn you. To those who are in the trenches with little ones every day and wear the badge of food stains, we appreciate you. To those who experienced loss through miscarriage, failed adoptions, or running away, we mourn with you. To those who walk the hard path of infertility, fraught with pokes, prods, tears, and disappointment, we walk with you. Forgive us when we say foolish things. We don't mean to make this harder than it is. To those who are foster moms, mentor moms, and spiritual moms, we need you. To those who have warm and close relationships with your children, we celebrate with you. To those who have disappointment, heartache, and distance with your children, we sit with you. To those who lost their mothers this year, we grieve with you. To those who experienced abuse at the hands of your own mother, we acknowledge your experience. To those who lived through driving tests, medical tests, and the overall testing of motherhood, we are better for having you in our midst. To those who have aborted children, we remember them and you on this day. To those who are single and long to be married and mothering your own children, we mourn that life that has not turned out the way you longed for it to be. To those who step-parent, we walk with you on these complex paths. To those who envisioned lavishing love on grandchildren, yet that dream is not to be, we grieve with you. To those who will have emptier nests in the upcoming year, we grieve and rejoice with you. To those who place children up for adoption, we commend you for your selflessness and remember how you hold that child in your heart. And to those who are pregnant with new life, both expected and surprising, we anticipate with you. This Mother's Day, we walk with you. Mothering is not for the faint of heart, and we have real warriors in our midst. We remember you. And so it is. So I like this poem very much because, as I shared with you before, Mother's Day has not been a very easy day for me to give a message for personal reasons, reasons within my own family, and so on. And I know that many congregants often stay away from Mother's Day because they don't want to hear it. They don't even want to hear the words Happy Mother's Day. And I think Amy Young here does a wonderful job capturing all these different experiences of many go through, being very inclusive of those who may not have had the joy of being a mother to a physical child and having had a great experience. At the same time, I like the poem because it celebrates all mothers as well. And so today, I want to kind of like give a different twist on Mother's Day and focus on just a couple of very specific aspects. Obviously, you know, we are in the midst of our campaign, raising some funds to be able to create a volunteer system that is geared toward community. One of the things that the board learned when we had our training a couple of months ago is that one of the most important things that we as Unity Fort Worth, but every church, every spiritual community in the world has realized we need to focus on is relationships. And ultimately, even though it looks like, oh, we're volunteering because if I'm not doing this, then the church is in trouble. Yes, that looks all like that on the surface, but ultimately what it is becoming part of the community and learning to work together. You know, I think the music team is such a beautiful example of how people from different paths of life come together and create something beautiful every Sunday. And that is true for every team, for those that you see visually and those that you don't see. And obviously, Mother's Day, you can't think of Mother's Day without thinking of service, can't you? Ultimately, what is being a mother is being of service. I actually think what I just shared, you know, from my ashram experience, being of service to humanity, there's really no difference to being a mother and being a dedicated, ordained monk in an ashram. It's about giving, right? Wouldn't you agree, those of you who had the chance to raise children? It's selflessness. It's giving away without expectation, sometimes giving beyond what we are supposed to or should, right? So we're learning to find the balance. Now, I like this comic here. Oops. Okay, you took it away from me. What's happening again? So, did you see this while I was talking? Oh, okay. So never mind, the joke's gone, but you get it where I'm going with this. I don't know, we're still having these gremlins in our slides now in a day. It just moves ahead without me. So, you know, that's really how I often see, especially in the United States, I find it very interesting how mothers are, at least from my perspective, having grown up in a different culture, I've grown up with a mom being dedicated at home. You know, our school system didn't have lunch. We actually went home for lunch and then came back in the afternoon for more school, right? That's how it worked in Switzerland in the 70s and 80s. And my mom cooked every day lunch. She actually cooked in the kitchen. And we had a proper lunch meal, not just a fold-over or something like that, you know, here, or peanut butter jelly, which still, I shudder when I hear that, right? But it's very different culture, and I'm always amazed how busy moms are here. And so this is very appropriate, you know, the super moms. Sometimes I really see that cape just being hidden behind the dress, you know, and then once in a while they take out the cape and whoosh, 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 and do all those things. It's incredible. It's about being here for everyone. Now you might think, you know, how does this have anything to do with bargaining to God. And in a way, it's not connected, and yet it is connected. And a couple of weeks ago, you probably remember, I wasn't really feeling too well. I had like the sweats on stage, and to be honest, it wasn't just because of those lights that keep me sweating every Sunday anyway. I wasn't really feeling too well. And then a few days later, I even ended up in the emergency room, and I was hospitalized for a few days. It got really serious there for a moment. And I don't know about you, but whenever I have a very serious thing going on in my life, I've been hiking across glaciers that was dangerous. I've been sailing in storms that was dangerous. Whenever you get to the brink where you just don't know if you make it out alive, that's when the bargaining starts, right? And not only when there is something, serious going on, sometimes we bargain with God for all sorts of reasons, right? We have these ideas that we want this and that, we want a bigger house, bigger car, or we want different relationship, better job, whatever, more money, whatever it is. And then sometimes when it doesn't happen, we end up in this bargaining position. And guess what? Last week when I was in the hospital, I was in one level below ICU, progressive care unit, they call it. So I was hooked up 24/7. I had like a dedicated almost nurse that was making sure that, I'll make through this, right? I started bargaining, and I was laughing at myself. He said, who am I bargaining with here? Right, first of all. Now, theologically in unity, I emphasize that the unity teachings theologically is very different than to what we usually grow up with in Christianity. It's more inclusive, it's oneness, it doesn't address a God outside of ourselves. So prayers to a God, whether we call it nature or mother, father, outside of ourselves doesn't really make much sense, strictly speaking, from a unity belief. But then we're also a unity community that is open to everyone joining us, regardless of what their beliefs are. And this bargaining happens regardless of our theology, isn't it? Some of us may say, dear God, please make sure I'm getting out alive here. Others may say, Spirit within, give me the strength so I can leave this hospital in good shape. Whatever the experience is, the bargaining happened to me while I was hanging on there, hooked up to those machines, and kind of like thought, you know what? Is this really all necessary? Do I really have to do this or go through this? And I started myself seeing to bargain, right? I may have not used words like God, and I may have not addressed it outside of myself, but ultimately it was still bargaining. I was trying to bargain with my higher self. I was trying to figure out whether my path that I'm on is really a good path, or whether I'm on a different path. And I was trying to find some guidance in that, until I realized that the bargaining is kind of futile, at least for me. I don't have to bargain. What I have to do is have faith and trust that my intuition to be a minister and be in this profession and be in this position, that everything I did, even though it ended up me ending up in the hospital, that everything I did is based on choices that I made, and those choices are going to help me move further along the path that I have set for myself. So rather than bargaining, I started to think about, well, what are the things that are really important? Which then brought me to divine motherhood. Divine motherhood is about three things, if you want to pick it out. It's about service, devotion, and surrender. The first one, we probably can all easily agree. Motherhood is about serving, right? But when we talk about divine motherhood, we not only talk about all those mothers who have been blessed or blessed themselves to have children. We're talking about men and women alike. We're talking about the divine feminine that's alive within all of us. And that part of us is the one that wants to be in service, that longs for the love that brings us all together, that longs for unity, that longs for the world to finally come to peace. But in order to be of service, we need to be devoted. And again, this is from my ashram experience. We also need to learn to surrender. So let's now talk about this other story, the story of Trotakam. Trotakam is a Sanskrit name for someone who is devoted. It has its roots in Sanskrit words that link to the word devotion, to completely surrender, completely devote the life in service. You see here a female version of Trotakam. Trotakam can be used for male and female. It's a Sanskrit name. It's not a title. It's just a name that's given to people who just embody that a liveliness of service. In this particular story, this is a story I've heard while I was in the ashram maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And it was always the same monk, the same senior monk, senior teacher, who would tell us that story. It's a very meaningful story because he talks about some of the Buddhist and Hindu traditions when people used to go to the monastery to study spirituality and to learn from usually an elderly monk, an abbot, how to reach enlightenment. Hundreds and thousands of years ago, these traditions go. You can easily look up some of these monasteries, some of them up way in the Himalayas, that provide that sanctuary, very much like the Catholic monasteries, where someone devotes their life only to God alone, only to spirituality and nothing else. So imagine this monastery being somewhere up in the Himalayas, and there's all these students, right, that join, very dedicated. They gave up their lives, they gave up their possessions, they had nothing, and they came to that monastery with only one goal: to be enlightened, to awaken, to learn who and what they truly are. And so they would sit in that building in the back there, right? And they would sit in meditation, meditate for hours and hours and hours all day long, and they would study scripture, and they would chant, and they would all those things that you would do in a monastery, in an ashram that's very focused on getting someone to the point of awakening. And so there were these dozens or so monks that were studying very, very hard, and they got all their power into it, everything, all their effort went into it, and nothing happened for them for months, and some of them even for years. They would meditate for 12 hours a day and read for 8 hours a day and chant for 4 hours a day until the day ran out. And they would do yoga and do everything, right? So imagine just a life that is only focused on your spirituality. And yet, they would never reach the goal. So they got really frustrated after a while. So frustrated, in fact, that they asked for an audience with the abbot. They were all sitting in a building back there behind the screen doors. We're all sitting in a circle and asked the abbot to come, who they recognized as their guru, as their enlightened master. And they would sit down, the abbot, and share some of their frustration. Well, I'm praying every day, I'm meditating every day, I'm reading scriptures and doing everything you're doing, and yet, I am yet not enlightened. I think you're doing something wrong. Pointing the finger at the abbot. I think there's something missing. Maybe we need to tweak our diet a little bit, or maybe we need to meditate a little bit more, or maybe we need to pray a little bit more. There's something that's missing. That's why we're yet not enlightened. And the abbot smiled very gently and said, you're missing the point. And he got up, walked to the screen door, he opened the screen door, and he pointed to Trotakam. And he said, look at Trotakam. Except what? The janitor? Yes, look at Trotakam and feel her presence. And in that moment, after months and some of them years, the monks finally realized that Trotakam, their janitor, who would clean up after them, who would rake the gardens, who would attend to the flowers, and who will be in the background and have this unassuming role in the monastery, has been enlightened all along. And they were flabbergasted, because they knew Trotakam, while they were praying and meditating and doing all the spiritual stuff that they were told to do, and chanting and all the right stuff, checking all the check boxes that the abbot gave him, Trotakam wasn't doing any of that. But instead, Trotakam lived a life in pure service. And not only in service, but in joy of that service. Joyfully raking the peace garden, joyfully snipping the flowers and attending to them, joyfully cleaning after the monks who were desperately trying to be enlightened. I love this story because it really fits me, my personality, because guess what? Which one of those two, the monk that's trying desperately to get enlightened, or Trotakam, guess which one of those am I? The monk, right? Because I was trained myself in my upbringing that I have to do everything right. I have to do everything right for people to like me. I have to do everything perfect for me to reach enlightenment. If I miss a prayer one day, that's a huge, big deal. If I don't meditate for 4 or 8 hours a day, then oh my God, I can never get there. If I don't do what my guru tells me to do, then I am lost. Anyone felt that way before? Right? And yet Trotakam, and the funny thing is, in that ashram, we had a person who was given the Sanskrit name Trotakam. He was a male, and he was the most devoted person I've ever met. The kindest, most loving person I met, and whenever I heard that story, I looked at him and said, yeah, he's got it. He's awakened. And I'm stressing out every day about everything, trying to check my boxes every single day. So I get there where he already is by just being himself, by just finding joy in what he is doing, as unimportant it may seem. And that is devotion. Devotion is not so much about checking your boxes, but it's about finding what is truly resonating with you in your heart and coming alive in that. When I was in the hospital for 5 days and I tried to bargain with God, I remembered that story, and I remembered that in the end, I can continue to be the hamster that runs in the hamster wheel, or I can just finally give up and surrender to who and what I truly am, to do what I really want to do, and to find the joy in that. Not everyone is supposed to be a monk. You know, what would the world look like if we all retreated in caves and started meditating all day? The world will crumble, right? We still need janitors. We still need electricians. We still need carpenters. We still need gas station clerks. That's all important. But what if, regardless of what we are all doing, what if we are retired and we may not have something very specific to do, but what if we all, regardless of what we're doing right now, could find the joy of being just alive and being who and what we are, and follow those desires that are already within us? Wouldn't that be a different world? Don't you think? There's a lot more to it, and I know I'm running out of time, so I'm just kind of briefly touch on this. A lot of the Buddhist and Hindu ashrams and communes and teachings, they're based on the 8 limbs of yoga, which is what Patanjali wrote about in the Yoga Sutras. The first 2 limbs are about the yamas and the niyamas. They're kind of like ethical practices, internalized and externalized. And here's a nice representation how it would look like. This is supposed to be a lotus flower that has ultimately 1,000 petals. But there's 10 ethical guides, very similar to the 10 Commandments, and I talked about those before. The very last one, the last niyama, is called Ishvara Pranidhana. You see it just, I don't know, do I have a pointer here or something? Maybe not, but you see it like when you go up, on the very top it says surrender, and then you go down to the right, it says Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara Pranidhana means surrender. Pranidhana means surrender. Ishvara means God, but it also means love. It's a very final practice, and it's a one of the most important practices in those Buddhist and Hindu traditions. It's about surrendering to what is, and to surrender to life with love, to surrender to even the adversities in our lives with kindness and with love and with understanding and openness, to surrender. And that's a big part of what it means to be in service. And again, those of you who have had the privilege of raising children, you probably can resonate this just without even knowing these traditions, but just knowing sometimes I had to surrender to my child past my own desires, past my own convictions. We don't have to give up our desires and our convictions, but surrender is a big part of truly being in service. And a church, in my opinion, I've been kind of raised at Unity of Houston, had 600 volunteers, and massive operations if you think about this. I learned every single volunteer position there is to do, and I did them all throughout the years. But the most important practice I learned, besides service and devotion, is to surrender. To surrender in every moment. And when I'm being asked to do something, to help with something, to help someone to the bathroom, open the door, something outside of my comfort zone, then I learned to surrender. And I realized from my ashram days, but also from my church days in Houston, and I see it happening here as well, is that surrender to the love outside of ourselves, the love within ourselves, to others is an important part. And that's how I see we can learn to be even more in service. And which brings me to the last part, and I promise to be quick. The question is, what is the divine feminine? The divine feminine is connected to service, devotion, and surrender. It's that part within ourselves, whether we are man or woman or have another gender identity, it doesn't matter. In all of us, we have that divine feminine. And Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, defines this as love in the soul not yet developed and established in substance. It's the love potential that we all have. And it's through service and through devotion and through surrender that that love comes alive. And what that love shows us is who we actually are, what we are. It shows us what really drives us. It gives us not another checkbox to tick in order to get to the awakening peace or the enlightenment peace or feeling in love peace, but it's another way of being, just like Trotikam, just finding the joy in doing what we are already doing. Interestingly, when you go back into Greek and look at the word woman, then the Greek, one of the Greek translations actually resonates with what Charles Fillmore is saying. In Greek, woman can mean unspiritualized love that is natural to the body. So our divine feminine is about potential. It's about having the potential to spiritualize love and manifest love in the world regardless of what situation we're in. It doesn't matter how old we are. It doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter what our occupation is. It doesn't matter whether we are poor or rich. That all has no influence, but this is what's within all of us. So how do we bring it out? And with that, I close before the meditation. That's from a book called Keeping Our Promises, How to Be a Guilt-Free Mother. It's actually from a Unity minister, Stephanie Moyersai. And I'm going to go through this rather quickly before we move into meditation. I promise to be present. I promise to lighten up. I promise to be kind. I promise to tell the truth. I promise to be grateful. I promise to be loving. I promise to be forgiving. 7 promises that we can make to ourselves in order to find that part within ourselves, that unspiritualized divine motherhood, and bring it alive. So as we move into meditation, will you just join me just reciting this together? I promise to be present. I promise to lighten up. I promise to be kind. I promise to tell the truth. I promise to be grateful. I promise to be loving. I promise to be forgiving. And so it is. So I invite you to take those promises into your heart. Promises that remind you of the truth of who you are. And remember the little heart that you got as you came in today, a reminder of your divine motherhood. Remember that feminine is as much alive in men and women and any form of gender that we identify with. It's not more or less, it's potential. Spiritually speaking, we're all mothers. We're all capable of taking that potential and spiritualize it, manifest it into this world. In fact, we are giving birth to our creation all the time. We never stop. It's part of us. It's our nature of being. It's where the spirit and humanity meet. So for a moment, allow yourself to sink into your motherhood, your spirituality, your feminine side, the potential of love and kindness and compassion, the potential to create something out of nothing, the potential to spiritualize and manifest your innermost desire. And then remember that regardless of who and what you are, regardless of your job, your relationship status, your socioeconomic status, whether you're retired or still in the workforce, or if you're yet to explore college and get into the work, we're all this potential together and individually. And we're all asked to serve. Serve in a way that allows us to become whole, but also the world to come together. As we learn to serve and to devote ourselves to that service, as we learn to find joy in everything we do, as we learn to surrender to our life's experiences, we change the world, one breath at a time, one action at a time. So remember that life is not just about checking off the many boxes we have, but also to remember that we deserve to be here. We deserve to bring out what we truly are. Not only do we deserve to allow our potential to come to full fruition, but we are demanded to do so. We are asked to do so by all of us. We're asked to come out of our shell and be the bright spirits we already are. We're asked to share, without holding back, the beauty and the kindness that's within us. With that, with service, devotion, and surrender, we serve this world, this universe, in meaningful ways. So in this perfect gratitude, in this perfect peace that we experience right now, we say yes to us. Yes to the potential, and yes to the fact that we deserve to be us, fully and without holding back. And so it is. Amen.
May the blessing of God rest upon you. May His peace abide with you. May His presence illuminate your heart now and forevermore. May the blessing of God rest upon you. May His peace abide with you. May His presence illuminate your heart now and forevermore.
Many of you already contribute regularly to our community, and we are so grateful for your continued support of our mission. If you would like to contribute right now, you can leave your tithe or love offering in the basket coming around, or click the link to contribute online. If you would like to be a sustaining member, we would love for you to consider setting up recurrent giving to support our community. In whatever way you choose to share your gifts, we are so grateful as we bless our love offerings. Together, divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am grateful.
Welcome to the end of being alone inside your mind. You're tethered to another and you're worried all the time. You always knew the melody, but you never heard it rhyme. She's fair and she is quiet, Lord. She doesn't look like me. She made me love the morning. She's a holiday at sea. The New York streets are busy as they always used to be. But I am the mother of Evangeline. The first things that she took from me were selfishness and sleep. She broke 1,000 heirlooms I was never meant to keep. She filled my life with color, canceled plans, and trashed my car. But none of that is ever who we are. Outside of my windows are the mountains and the snow. I hold you while you're sleeping, and I wish that I could go. All my rowdy friends are out accomplishing their dreams, but I am the mother of Evangeline. They've still got their morning paper and their coffee and their time. They still enjoy their evenings with the skeptics and the wine. Oh, but all the wonders I have seen, I will see a second time. not an accident where no one thought it through. The world that stood against us made us mean to fight for you. And when we chose your name, we knew you'd fight the power too. You're nothing short of magical and beautiful to me. I'd never hit the big time without you. So they can keep their treasure and their ties to the machine. 'Cause I am the mother of Evangeline. They can keep their treasure and their ties to the machine. 'Cause I am the mother of Evangeline. Ooh.
It's been such a gift having you with us today. Join us for fellowship after service, and remember to buy some tasty treats in our bake sale. Stay safe, be well, and have a wonderful week. Please rise to sing our peace song, followed by the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and I am.